Hey everyone, welcome to Make Your Peace, a 4YE podcast about Wynonna Earp. I'm Catherine Meushaw.
And I'm Lara Hayes.
And today we'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 6, Whiskey Lullaby. But before we get into it, we wanted to say a quick thanks again for all of the feedback we've received and all the retweets and everything. We really appreciate it, and we love that you guys are enjoying it. So, in this episode, the widows enlisted the help of a sandman to put the entire town to sleep so they could find and break the second seal. And the town slept, but not really, because it was a dream for a month, which we should have picked up on because, they enlisted the help of a sandman. So everyone found out about Wynonna's pregnancy and had varied reactions because of all of a sudden she had a very large baby bump. And it feels like it should have showed up longer than a week after, or a month after, but whatever. I guess sometimes that actually legitimately does happen.
Also, we don't know how far along she was, so there's that too.
Yeah. So it was just kind of, I'll roll with it. Wayhot had a very important conversation about consent and some very sweet little moments. Nicole finally got to shoot somebody, and it was Tucker.
He's so disappointed.
Yeah, that was really satisfying. And then Tucker killed Constance Clutie, we think. So, where do you want to start? I feel like I always decide where to start. So where do you want to start, Lara?
I think, let's start right at the title, because I really loved this title, Whiskey Lullaby. It worked on two levels. It was foreshadowing for the big sleep of the episode, and it also worked as a joke, almost like a whiskey requiem, because Wynonna's whiskey soaked in reckless days are behind her for the next little bit.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And I didn't really think too much about the title, but yeah, I mean, you're right. It was kind of, they waste nothing when it comes to dialogue or even naming the episodes. So you're right. It was a pretty good, I really enjoyed the episode.
I did too.
It's another, we're halfway through the season and we haven't really had a slow episode. I've been really, it's been really good. I mean, the dialogue's been on point. It's been really great. So I liked this episode. And once again, Melanie Scrofano blew it out of the water.
She really did. It was a powerhouse performance again this week. And going back to what you were saying about the writing and how strong it is right now, I almost could not keep track of all of my favorite quotes for this episode. I mean, they were literally coming one on the back of the other, just in such rapid succession. It was one-liner after one-liner.
Oh, same. I think because I write up the quotes when I write up my recap. I swear my list of quotes gets longer every week. I'm going to have a transcript of the episode. I just know it. Because it was really, and I know normally we save those till last, but since we're already talking about it, what were some of your favorites?
Okay, right up in the start of the episode, Doc had me laughing when they were facing off with Moody, and Moody was like, it's good to see you again, and Doc, said, I would return the sentiment, but I hate you. That was really funny, and the barn moment with the sisters, the so. Remember that time you touched the goo? You never do that. That was really, really good. And I think everybody loved you guys make the Notebook look bleak. I laughed at that when I watched the episode, and I laughed when I rewatched the episode. What were some of yours?
Well, I actually, funnily enough, I had a Doc quote from the beginning, but it was "Don't talk about my partner's ass."
Yes.
That one was pretty great. What else? I had "My other boss is a lizard" or "Tiny super sexy dragon." What else? When the nun's like, "My boss was dead," and Wynonna's like, "God really is dead." Yeah. Or sorry, "My boss was killed," and Wynonna's like, "God really is dead."
It's Nietzsche, isn't it? Wasn't that his line? God is dead.
I don't know.
And it was funny either way. I also really liked the cannibal psychiatrist comment when she was asking for a case, because I love Hannibal Lecter, so that really tickled me.
Yeah, that was pretty great. There were so many good ones. We're even the little ones. We're going to need a bigger coat. And there was another one I knew. I mean, Nicole had some good ones.
Another one that I loved was the when Wynonna comes to wake Waverly up and she's like, does this look normal? And Waverly is like, that was so not on WebMD. And I loved it. I loved it because you know that Waverly has been living on WebMD since she found out. And she's got like 3 copies of What to Expect When You're Expecting on hold right now at the Purgatory Public Library.
Oh yeah, because you know Wynonna's going to lose them. She knows Wynonna's going to lose them, so she's got a couple. She probably bought one for Doc. You know, because that's Waverly, and you know Waverly is the type of person to like get a cough and then or have a headache and then immediately go to WebMD to make sure that they, they're okay.
I haven't thought about that before, but if you're headcanoning Waverly, the hypochondriac, I'm with you because I totally believe that about her.
Maybe, I mean, and not necessarily the hypochondriac, but just that person who goes onto WebMD, like, obsessed, like, it's like, I have a headache, let me make sure it's okay, because she's that researchy type, and then ends up walking away, like, hoping she doesn't have a brain tumor. Because that's what WebMD does. It's like, oh, hey, you have a headache? Brain tumor!
True.
And, because it's a terrible website.
Google responsibly, everyone.
Yes. That's your PSA for today. Oh, another Nicole line. That was the one I was looking for. The tell me I'm wearing clothes this time.
Yeah.
Killed me. Yeah. And I missed it the first time, and I missed Doc's line about Rosita drinking enough energy drinks to see Elvis. I missed that one too. I know that's not where we normally start, but I couldn't, with that lead in, I couldn't resist talking about all of the hilarious lines. The writer of this episode was Caitlin Friars. Bridget over at TV Junkies did a really great interview with her. I love the writing. I always love the writing on the show. And I think it was her first solo episode that she's written. So that's pretty great.
It is.
I look forward to seeing more episodes written by her.
I do too. Her banter game is strong.
Yeah, and I think it helps that, it's the writing and then the cast is able to play that really well. When you have a cast like they have, it really helps them to be able to write stuff like that comes off quippy. I mean, Melanie is just great with her delivery, and
yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that Nicole got a few so that like Kat could kind of show that off, because I think she's talked about liking comedy, so it's nice when she gets that opportunity. So yeah, I really appreciated it. And speaking of Nicole, I think we got to talk about the thing that we missed last time.
We definitely owe it to everybody listening.
So, we're sorry, guys. We had so much to talk about last week that we forgot to talk about something major. We forgot to talk about Nicole's uniform. And that was a very important thing that we missed.
Our bad.
So, yes, our bad. But she got a new addition to the uniform, the baseball cap. So we still had an excuse to talk about the new uniform. So
I love that they put her in a baseball cap in a snapback. Like I just love it.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular. It's that part of it's a little bit updated, the baseball cap thing. I don't love the color of it. I kind of wish it wasn't tan, but I love the fact that she has the baseball cap, and her uniform doesn't feel very like policey anymore necessarily, like
it's more agenty.
Yeah, because the shirt, it's not I kind of missed the button down, but because it's like a zipper, isn't it?
Or it's like a mock neck that falls into like a deep V. I can't tell if there's a zipper there or not. I don't know why I haven't blown up a picture to find out. I'm sorry, everyone.
I was just thinking, Laura, we had a chance to do this right.
And we messed it up again.
So, no, I really liked it. And, Waverly seems to really like it.
I think it's a hit.
Yeah, so, no, I think it's a really good color. So, I really like the new uniform. Not that I didn't like the khakis and everything. But, no, I think it looks good. And I think the dark colors against the really bright stripes and everything, it looks really good. All right, let's get into some overall thoughts or initial thoughts about the episode while we were watching.
One thing, and I know that this, I think this is probably something that you want to talk about too. One of the initial impressions that I had that was ruined by the end of the episode, because Tucker is trademarked the worst, And you brought this up in your recap of the episode. You know, the widows were casting their rings across the map in the beginning of the episode. They were doing some sort of spell. I don't know if it was to locate something or someone. I think it was about the seal and about the Sandman. And, you know, not Beth was talking to not Mercedes about how, you know, you've lost our husband's favor, you've lost the gift, which it read to me as though they've been sent here on a mission from this mysterious husband. You can't see me, but I'm making air quotes. Who by virtue of being mentioned by our like two current reigning baddies becomes a candidate for like big bad of the season. And I don't know who this husband figure is, or whether or not the widows are trying to release him through the seal. But that's kind of how it came off to me. And the moment that stood out to me the most was they were talking about, you know, not being able to find the seal because Bobo hid it, and they were going through the list of who could help them find the seal. And you know, they're like, so we asked the Stone Witch, so we asked Juan Carlo. And it was really troubling to me that Juan Carlo was like brought up in that company, that he was mentioned in the company of the Stone Witch and Bobo. Also, I completely expected after that first mention of the Stone Witch, I was like, finally, that somebody's going to dig her up, you know, and I was kind of excited because we didn't get a lot of her last season. Like I kind of wanted more. She was, you know, pretty fun. And so I had I made like a little note to myself and I was like, Stone Witch is going to be coming back. And then she was not brought back in the way that I wanted, Catherine.
Yeah, I'm so glad you kind of started there because like I have so many thoughts on all of the things you just said. So bear with me as I gather myself. I like that you think the husband being mentioned as many times indicates that he's the next, like he is the big bad of the season. And to go with that, I think the husband that the widows are talking about is Constance Clutie's husband, the one who cursed the Earps. Because when they talk about the husband, it's definitely sounds like it's, you know, they say the implication is that it's basically like a sister-wife situation.
Yeah, and they called her sister.
Yeah, and while that could also be like a coven thing, because Clutie is magic.
Right.
They seem to be too, and maybe they were witches that are stuck in some kind of purgatory, and maybe that's the seal too. So maybe the seal kind of gets them to fuller power and releases the husband or something. Like maybe they're stuck. Yeah, my first thought was, oh, it's the husband that Clutie talked about that Wyatt Earp killed, or like, you know, or not that Wyatt Earp, but you know, that cursed the Earps.
Yeah.
Especially with the reactions not Mercedes had to hearing the Earp name.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I was interested about that because it's the fact that they want Constance, and then of course Tucker like has to take her out. And I was a little like, I liked Constance was a interesting villain, and I was looking forward to seeing her again.
Right.
Not like this though. Oh, not like this.
Tucker, maybe.
But the Juan Carlo mention in that as well, kind of, it's a little like, what's up? Because we're getting the, like I said last week, he kind of seems to be kind of a guy, but by that token, if he is a neutral party, we have to acknowledge that he pushes the heroes and the villains to where they need to go. So if it's part of the master plan that Juan Carlo has to help put in place, maybe them asking him for help or guidance wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility.
And since we're talking about the Stone Witch, before we move off of her, another thing for me is, you know, will this death have an effect on Doc?
Right.
I mean, we don't really know that. What we do know is that that's the entire reason that they buried her in the salt flats. They took her to the salt flats to, you know, restrain her so she couldn't use her powers, and they buried her there alive because they didn't know what her death would do to Doc. So I'm wondering if he senses it. I'm wondering if he starts aging like any normal person. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a big question because we're given the impression that their fates are intertwined, but
Right.
how intertwined are their fates? It was obvious that they couldn't kill each other because it would cause both of their deaths.
Right.
And like you said, we got the impression that they both had to be alive, but maybe that's not necessarily the case. You know, as to whether or not Doc heard her or felt it, I mean, maybe not, because if she's been in pain or been upset in the Salt Flats this entire time, maybe he's repressed that feeling. So he didn't know when it happened. There's also the idea that Clutie's not dead, that wasn't actually Clutie's head.
Yeah, that's possible too. You're right.
I don't necessarily think that's the case, unfortunately.
I don't either, but it's a hopeful theory. I like that. Maybe maybe she's not dead.
Yeah, I'd like to, because like I said, it's like we're losing fun villains left and right. We lost Lucado last week, and now we've got Clutie, and what are you doing, guys?
While we can't get rid of Tucker. I almost feel like we have to call out how good the writing is for terrible Tucker, because he's just a mortal dude, Well, I guess he's a little special now, but you know what I'm saying? He's just some guy, and he's his presence on screen is more unsettling to me than the widows and their veils. He's imbued with such menace, and he's so creepy, and there's just such a toxic level of entitlement with him. And the entire sequence in Waverly's room with Poppy was just disgusting. You almost have to give praise for how bad he is.
And the unfortunate thing is, yes, I agree with you that the writing is on par. The unfortunate thing is the fact that he strikes such a chord, the fact that, it makes you so disturbed and unnerved, is that there are men out there who are like him. It's not a stretch to, that's not an unrealistic portrayal of some people. That is, there are men who are like that and who are just that creepy and gross. And it's that's the other side of this. It's you've got a show where, there's demons and stuff like that. And we're not going to wake up one day and, find one of the widows.
Right.
But we could pass a Tucker on the street.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other side of it, is the worst villains sometimes in a TV show or a movie or something like that are the ones that you can imagine walking past on the street, that are the everyday person that's these are real people.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes him such a good bad character.
Yeah, you're right. You can't see me right now, but I have my hands up like Pensatucky mid-praise. I'm feeling everything throwing down right now.
Because I was thinking about that last night or today or something. I don't know. That that's what makes him such a good villain. It's look, I had a friend who texted me. She's like, I'm glad that Nicole shot him. Is it bad that I'm glad? And I'm like, I'd be worried if you weren't. I'd be more concerned for anybody who was Nicole shouldn't have shot him. I'm gonna watch out for the person who tells me that. And while we're talking about it, let's talk about that scene and Nicole, because I love the way Hot Scene, don't get me wrong, but I think that scene I really love that scene, and it was nice to see Nicole be a cop. And I think it says a lot. Here she is with this guy that she knows is no good. He's creepy. He's threatening a girl. Nicole could very easily have just taken him out and had every reasonable, had it be a reasonable thing to have done. But she's a good cop. She's a good person. And she didn't do that. I'm sorry. What did you say?
No, yeah. He had a hostage and he was trespassing.
Yeah. And I think it says a lot about, it reinforces that Nicole she's a good character. She's a good person. She's a good cop. And I think just when you get little stuff like that it helps to really reinforce it. She took cues from Poppy and knew that she could get Poppy safe and disable Tucker. without killing him.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really important. I mean, he jumped out a window, and he jumped headfirst out of a second-story window. I'm not sure how he's doing right now. I can't imagine it's good. But it's like, I really liked that scene with Nicole.
I did too. And I liked that in this episode, we saw a different side of Nicole. We saw a side of her that is a bit of a rebel and a bit of a rule breaker. And she was all about dosing everyone with stolen drugs from the evidence locker. It came to light that she had tapped Tucker's phone at some point. And what I loved about seeing this side of her was that Wynonna got to see this side of her too. I think she recognizes this rebellious streak for what it is, because it's brought out in Nicole by her bone deep desire to keep the people she cares about safe. And it was sweet to watch Wynonna warm to that and to kind of open up to Nicole, and then we, of course we got the scene where Nicole comes back in and, sees Wynonna's, very pregnant belly. And there's also a sense that Wynonna is starting to understand that Nicole is someone that she can trust, not just with her sister, but with her own secrets. And I really love that. I felt like Nicole really opened up in this episode.
Yeah, and I love that scene between, and I know we'll get more into Wynonna and the pregnancy at some point, because we both have feelings about it. But I loved that scene where she walked in on Wynonna so much, because you've got, Wynonna's finally taking a chance to look at this belly that she's, just popped up without, she hasn't had time to process. It's her first chance to get to look at it, and she's, vulnerable, and, for a second, it's that, she hasn't had a chance to talk to anybody really about it. She's not allowing herself to talk about it. She's nope, I don't want to deal with it right now. And this woman who she barely knows, who she's had good interactions, let's not forget the top shelf moment that they had. But it's still, she doesn't know how Nicole's going to react. And, it's got to be scary. And just Nicole was so gentle. And so, she even, with her tone, she lowered her tone and everything. She lowered her voice a little bit. She got very gentle when she asked if Waverly knew. And, she started to shut the door, because she wanted to be able to, keep whatever secret Wynonna needed her to. And I think it's an attest to Nicole's character. And what you mentioned about keeping the people that she cares about safe, I don't think that's necessarily just Waverly and her family. I think that's either the people of Purgatory. I think it's very clear that Nicole has a big heart. But I really love that moment. I just love she gets very gentle and just kind of lets Wynonna say what she needs to and gets the information that she needs to get. Do I have to keep this from Waverly? Where are we at with this? And then she immediately, changes the subject for her after Wynonna's I haven't told anybody.
Yeah.
Waverly's the only one who knows. Nicole's okay, well, I'm going to go patrol and stuff like that. And tells Wynonna where the key is to that locker, which was not technically a locker. It was a shelf of drugs. And I love that heaven help that gynecologist. I'm sorry, what?
No, I said it was a baker's rack.
Yeah. So oh man, I have all of the feelings about Nicole, and I could spend this whole hour talking about her, just because I love her, and I like getting pieces of her character, and I can't wait until we get a backstory.
Yeah.
Because it is just, especially on rewatch, I could appreciate that scene with her and Wynonna more, just because I could take my time and watch it and rewind it and everything. And it's just, she softens so much. And some of that's the cop training, and some of it's just she knows that Wynonna's scared. And just because of how quickly Wynonna reacts and tries to cover it up. And it's I love that scene so much. So yeah, I have all of the feelings about Nicole. It was a good episode for a lot of the characters, and I think definitely it was a good episode for Nicole.
I think so too.
I know you want to talk about the Wayhouse moment. And since we're already talking about Nicole, let's get into it.
I do. It was the best moment of the episode for me. you guys listening, if you listened to last week's podcast, I had mentioned that something that I really wanted to happen was a Way Hot follow-up conversation about consent, because I thought that now that Nicole knew that Waverly was under the influence of this goo, that she might have her reservations because Waverly's consent was so important to her. And so then, we got that moment for Way Hot, and Nicole needed to know that Waverly was the one with her, that she was the one acting, she was the one in control, that she meant everything she said to Nicole, which was so sweet and so vulnerable. And I think it was just so important to reinforce the importance of consent for her character in light of everything that we found out. And I was thrilled that happened. And I actually tweeted it out during the episode in all caps. I got my second conversation about consent. And Emily Andrus wrote back to me and she was like, yelling seems really aggressive while talking about consent, but this is really important to me. So that was just a really cool moment, like watching the episode and then afterwards getting to share a moment with the showrunner and show my appreciation for it.
That scene was so good. And I like that it was kind of in stages, are you sure? Or, how do I know it's real and stuff like that. And I do like that they can be vulnerable with each other. And I talked about it a little bit when I popped into Whiskey and Donuts on Friday. But so it's like, I love that they addressed it right away. They didn't sit on it. And I think to me, it was especially important that they made it clear that it was consent and that there was, that Waverly was herself, so that nobody could, like, fans couldn't invalidate it. Yeah. And that sounds weird, but like, we knew because we read interviews and stuff like that Waverly was herself, but it was really important that it was really clear in the show. And I think for me, it was just especially important because it's a queer relationship, so that people couldn't turn around and be like, try to invalidate it and say, well, Waverly wasn't herself. And it's like, but she was. So having those moments and making it very explicit was really important. Not,
it was.
That's what I meant, right? Yeah. Sometimes I mix up my words. So yeah, I think that added another layer to it. Just the fact that it wasn't like, you can't take anything away from people with those moments.
Yeah. It's canon. It happened. Everybody's on board.
And not that I think that would happen necessarily in this fandom, but I mean, it's not a perfect. There are people who watch the show who aren't on board with it. So I really liked that part of it. And like everything that you said about the consent and everything, it's just, I really liked that moment. And it was a big moment for me as well in the episode, just because it wasn't like beat you over the head with it. It was very in character. It was very in storyline. It wasn't, and that's how it should be, just when you're having conversations with consent. Anyway, I kind of want to get a little bit more of Nicole's backstory too, because this is, with all the checking in that she does, because I mean, she does it constantly, kind of wondering, is that a thing that she's always done, or is it something that has sparked because of whatever history she has?
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So I'm interested, but yeah, I love that. That was such a great Way Out moment. I saw that Emily had replied to your all caps excitement about it.
I yell when I'm excited, so that's
oh, I do happened. Too. I definitely do too, and I don't think anybody in this fandom wouldn't understand the all caps yelling about things that delight you.
True.
We, the fandom of No Chill. And just Nicole had so many great moments. And let's talk about some of the other big stuff, like Wynonna's pregnancy, like all the stuff with Wynonna's pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Just because once again, like we said when we started, Melanie was again a powerhouse in this episode. I mean, she was just, it was heartbreaking. It was just all of the feels. You feel so much for her, for Wynonna in this situation.
I thought I thought it was a really strong scene too. At the sheriff's station, Wynonna telling Waverly, who was really on her back about, kind of outing her pregnancy and being honest and telling all the involved parties. And she was like, look, it's my decision to tell, who I want, when I want, and this is my situation. This is happening to my body. And, Waverly was hovering. She was pushing, which I get because I get it for her character. But I love that Wynonna addressed it directly. She doesn't need to be rushed. She doesn't need to be judged. And she doesn't need Waverly to fix this situation for her because she can't. She just needs Waverly's support. And, Waverly immediately backed down. And for the rest of the episode, and I'm sure going forward, we saw a big change in Waverly's attitude. And she went right back to being Wynonna's cheerleader. And I just thought that was a really wonderful moment between those two.
I think it was because we've seen Waverly get judgmental when it comes to Wynonna's sex life. We saw it when Waverly first found out that Wynonna and Doc had slept together. Because Waverly, again, I know I say it all the time, but Waverly, she's smart, she's mature, but she's 21 and she's still immature in some regards, and she's still a little naive, and she's still a little bit of a romantic. And I think that's what it boils down to.
Idealistic.
Yeah, in her mind, it's you love somebody and then you sleep together and all this stuff, or you have these strong feelings. She doesn't do the casual sex thing, and Wynonna does. I think it also, she definitely doesn't mean to judge Wynonna, but I think it probably stems from growing up and having everybody judge Wynonna. So she kind of picked up some of those habits.
Yeah.
I appreciate that Wynonna was like, hey, I don't need you to judge me. And Waverly, even though she didn't get a chance to, tried to apologize. And it's just the last scene that they had. Man, the Earp sisters, I love Way Hot, but the Earp sisters are my favorite relationship on this show.
Mine too. With what you just brought up, that end moment between the two, I thought it was so brave to let Wynonna have a moment of anger over this pregnancy. She tells Waverly she's been on 2 forms of birth control since she was 13, and she knows she's a screw up, but she's also a sexually responsible adult, and she didn't choose this. Yeah. And it happened to her anyway, the way life is wont to do sometimes. And, the universe didn't and doesn't respect the choices she makes over the trajectory of her life or her path in this world, and now over her body. It was powerfully written. It was beautifully acted, and Waverly kind of redeemed herself in that moment because she didn't respond to Wynonna with platitudes. She really listened to her, and she was like, you're right, this sucks, and I'm not going to tell you that everything is going to be okay. She didn't try to make it a Hallmark moment. She just let her sister grieve and reminded her that she's with her and that she's not alone. And it underscored their relationship for me too. I actually made a note to myself that is exactly what you just said. Ship whoever you want to ship, but they all come second to the Earp sisters.
And I've got sisters. And it's so I don't know if that's part of why I love them so much. But it's I don't have that relationship. So to see a relationship between sisters like that just makes me extra emotional, because it's I have 2 sisters, but I don't necessarily have that relationship. So seeing a portrayal like this is just so wonderful. It's so delightful because it's not like everything is all great. They argue, they have disagreements, they judge each other sometimes, and it's just, but at the end of the day, they have each other's backs, and it's so important. And reflective of most sibling relationships, I'd like to say, it's like I said, I don't have a Earp sisters-esque relationship with my sisters, but I know they have my back. I know my brothers have my back, because it's your siblings. That's what you do. So excuse the getting extra personal there, but
bring it.
So yeah, it's just that's part of why I love them so much, and it's just that last scene, and I love that, and we haven't talked too much, and I want to talk about Doc and Dolls. But since we're talking about Waverly, it's like when, Doc gives her that note, it's like when you think she's ready. He left it to Waverly to be like, I know you're going to take care of her. Waverly, when we see Wynonna take care of Waverly, like, go into protective mode, but we saw Waverly take care of her big sister a few times in this episode. And that's all that she was trying to do when she was trying to fix things, quote unquote, fix things. She just didn't know how. She didn't know how to not be like, oh, Wynonna, let's go into solution mode, when Wynonna just didn't want to deal. But I like that she knew to give Wynonna that note, and I wonder if she knew what it said, or if she and Doc had talked about it. Like, I do wonder about that, because that was such a wonderful moment where, she gives her that note, and then Wynonna just falls apart. She's given that opportunity, and that scene, it's just so good, and Melanie is so great, and just that breakdown,
that was a really, really powerful moment between the two of them. It's so raw, and the topic was so touchy. And it's funny because we got all of these big pregnancy laughs in the episode, so the source of a lot of humor for us too. Every time that somebody said something that could be misconstrued to be about like pregnancy or something you would say to a pregnant woman, like we got this like knee-jerk reaction out of Wynonna, and they were all funny, that why do my clothes look tight? Like, I can have whiskey. Like, it was really, again, the banter in this episode was on fire.
And I think that also comes down to Wynonna makes jokes when she's uncomfortable. She's that kind of person.
Yes.
She's scared, she's uncomfortable, and she's feeling very, like, she's hyper aware, I think. And it's just like, because she has this big secret, and sometimes it's that very tropey thing where in like TV shows and movies and stuff like that, where a girl loses her virginity and then is like, you have a character who's like, you look different or something like that. Or like they make a big deal out of it. Like, I feel different or something like that. Or it's like, there's something different about me. And I think it's kind of that same thing where it's like Wynonna, she's very aware, and it's like, she's very uncomfortable and very conscious of this. And she's like, thinks that everybody else is too.
Yeah.
And she's so scared.
That's just what it's like living with a secret. Like, you assume that the truth of it is just written on your forehead backwards, and all anybody needs is a mirror. And it's this, she was wound like a tight wire, just for the entire episode, which again was very funny. But then in the end, we had this breakdown over it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I could talk so much about that, just because it's, and I talked a little bit last week about being kind of hesitant about the storyline. Like, I'm not jumping ship yet, because it's just so wonderful to watch. We knew this was going to get emotional, and we knew that we were going to see some of Wynonna, like, not really knowing what to do with this, because she doesn't want to be a mom. So it's nice to be seeing that, and I'm going to mention it for the billionth time that Melanie Scrofano is just, if this is what we get halfway through the season, I can't. I'm so looking forward to the rest of the season.
I am too. I can't imagine what the finale's going to be like. I mean, it's just been like punch after punch with these episodes. So I think we're really in for something.
In the same vein, talking about Wynonna's pregnancy, let's talk about Doc and Dolls and how they reacted.
Fine.
I have I'm sorry we have to.
I know.
Because I have some feelings about it, especially I did talk to somebody after the episode aired last night and had a bit of a disagreement about the reactions. Because, you've got Dolls who has a chance now, especially with BBD kind of tossing them aside, which I accidentally, jokingly said that would happen last podcast. I didn't actually expect it to. But with BBD kind of tossing them aside, and, Dolls has this big thing about, like, we're free agents. We have this freedom to do all of this thing and no agenda and whatnot. And I think it was that conversation with Moody for Dolls was very freeing for him, because You know, he went from I'm a government agent, and you know he's worked in the like he's been up in the military and stuff like that because he's just got that. I think it might be part of his dog tags too. He was in some branch of the military. He's been so structured and been, I work for this, and now he's a free agent and he has all this freedom, and he's like, okay, I know what I want to do with this. I want to pursue Wynonna because I have these feelings, and I think she does too. So you've got that element to it, and then all of a sudden he finds out, oh, she's pregnant, like,
Yeah.
and he knows who the father is, or he knows who she thinks is the father. Like I said, it may not be Doc, but as far as we know, it's Doc.
Everybody's pretty sure.
Yes, which again, just because you're pretty sure does not mean it's for sure, for sure. You know, he had a very, he was jealous. He had a very, like, clear, jealous reaction. You know, it put a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I think yours as well. We were just kind of,
Yeah.
I didn't like it. And I guess it's a very real response to have, I'm assuming. I mean, I'm not a dude, and I am not somebody who has found out that somebody I'm interested in just recently, like, got pregnant or whatever. So, like, I obviously have never been in that situation. But, I mean, it's, you know, he has a very jealous reaction, and then he acts like a jerk.
Yeah.
And but he kind of did that, I feel like he did that last season too, where he just doesn't handle feelings well.
I don't think it's entirely out of character for him. With what you just said, yes, it's believable that he would have a poor reaction, but he's not irresponsible. And I felt like Dolls was a little irresponsible with Wynonna in this episode. And I didn't love that. I don't feel that way about him. I don't believe that about him. So I was a little upset that he kind of stole his kiss. And then he, you know, flipped right back into old habits by hiding behind their roles, which don't even exist anymore, and telling Wynonna, you're an amazing agent. You're just an amazing agent. It made the kiss a selfish thing that he did, and a moment that he stole from her to get something he needed, when the more pressing concern here is, what does Wynonna need? And I did believe that he was someone who put other people ahead of himself. So I didn't like this for his character.
Yeah, and just like just how he gets rude when he first finds out. It's like acting like Wynonna should have told him, and it's like I get that he's seeing this, he doesn't know that Wynonna just found out. And I get that. So it's like, it's really hard. And talking this out is kind of helping. But you mentioned, like, irresponsible. What, like, you say irresponsible just because it was incredibly selfish and because it could have put them at risk, or talk more about the irresponsibility bit.
I mean, irresponsible in the reckless disregard sense. I think that he would have been more concerned about her, because he's a big picture kind of guy. And I know that emotions make people do crazy things. I know that. I mean, we've all acted less than admirable when we've been hit with upsetting news. But it's very obvious on her face what she's going through. I mean, that scene where he's standing over her, where he finds out and she says, I'm okay, I'm okay. Like, she's obviously not saying that to him. She's obviously saying it to herself. And I just think she was in such a vulnerable position that I don't believe Dolls would have acted that way with her.
Especially, like you mentioned, the fact that, like, when he first finds out, she's sitting down, he's standing up. That's a very power play kind of, like, it's she was so vulnerable, and I mean, she just got tossed around. So it's like she just got tossed around. She knows Dolls is about to find out that she's pregnant. She knows that the widows have the information that they need. So, like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so he's standing over her, and that's scary when you've got, like, it's, like, and maybe, like, scary may or may not be the right word, but, you know, it's very...
I think you're right about that, because, like you said, she was in a very vulnerable position. There was no hiding her stomach. She was very exposed, and that is a frightening thing. But keep going. I think you're right.
Yeah, no, so it's just... there was a lot of really good direction, I think, in this episode as well, just with stuff like that, moments like that. It's not out of character for him to immediately feelings? What? No, I'm going to go into what I know and start calling her deputy. And I didn't like that he got rude. I didn't like that he shot the Sandman because it's reckless. Just kind of getting on Wynonna for her empathy as well, because there was a chance to let the Sandman live. And I think Wynonna was all ready to do that and give him a chance. And I think it's kind of an important part of her character that we do see her with a lot of empathy, or at least she tries.
Yeah.
And he kind of took that away too. He kind of, thinking about it, it kind of almost reminded me of Doc with Fish and Levi.
Yeah.
And she's like, I gotta see them as people. And that's when she started telling people, make your peace. It's one of those moments where it's like, generally I like dolls. I do. But
Right,
it was just,
me
he was
too.
very unlikable. And it's unfortunate, he's very unlikable because he had a very human reaction to this. It's kind of, so it was frustrating because he panicked. He freaked out. And then instead of trying to we'll work something out, he was just kind of like, oh, well, because I think they've made it kind of clear to the viewers, at least, Wynonna and Doc kind of know where they stand with each other, and that was never going to be, as far as they were concerned, a thing. They were very casual. And I think Doc was okay with that. He makes this snide comments to dolls and stuff like that, but, I don't think Doc and Wynonna really were kind of, oh, this is going to be a thing. It was just, we're casual or whatever. And for dolls to have that reaction when he was so willing to start something and to be in something with Wynonna is it's crappy.
I kind of fall on another side with Doc. I think there is an understanding with them, but I think Doc is constantly surprised by how deeply he cares for Wynonna. And I think all of this stuff with Rosita, and him making the point to tell Waverly that it's casual and to say, I don't, do commitment, and all that stuff. I think that's kind of a smokescreen with him. I think he meant what he wrote on that letter when he said he was all in. And I think he's been all in for Wynonna for a while now. And I think that scares him.
Yeah. And it's and no, I'm with you on that one. I am with you on that one, that I think he has stronger feelings. But as far as how their relation, how they've been clear with the people around them and with each other, as right now, they're kind of okay, this is casual and we're okay with that. So that's the kind of attitude that everybody's had. I mean, because you're right, and I do agree with you that Doc definitely has feelings that go beyond just let me have this casual thing.
But you're saying that they were on the same page about what their relationship is currently.
Kind of, yeah, or at least that's what as far as how they would talk about it to other people.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you there too.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I it where it makes sense in my brain, but then when I say it, it doesn't come out right. So, and then just the difference between how dolls reacted and how Docs reacted. And again, dolls is reacting as somebody who's interested, but just found out that it's going to be extra complicated. And Doc is finding out as, that's my kid. And I had a conversation with somebody who looked at Doc's reaction and was like, oh, he panicked. And I don't think so. I think he was shocked. And I watched that scene where Wynonna tells Doc a few times because I really wanted to watch Doc. And it was not a panic reaction. He was shocked, and he got it looked like he started to tear up.
Yeah,
and
I saw that too.
I don't know how much of that was Tim being emotional shooting, or that was Doc. That was Tim playing Doc as emotional.
Right.
Because, Doc told Waverly, he's, I'm not the settle down kind of type. And maybe that's not necessarily true. I don't think it necessarily is. I think, again, like you said, it's a smoke screen. That part of it is as well. But so I had this conversation, and it's just kind of where they were like, well, Doc panicked. And I don't think so. He was shocked. And, he didn't just randomly come around. He wanted to make it, he didn't know how to react. And I think that's fair. He was surprised and
emotional.
He turned around and he wanted to make sure that he told her, I'm in.
Yeah.
I think it was really important. And Doc's a lot of things. He's not a bad guy. I think he'll be there for whatever Wynonna needs, and I think he wants to. I don't think that was I'm all in because I feel obligated.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was I'm all in because I want to be a part of this.
Yeah. And one more thing that I want to call out, or I want to make sure that we call out, is the scene where Wynonna charges into the clockmaker's mansion. Because, I mean, I know people are talking about it, but I just want to make sure that we talk about it, because that was a really powerful image, she kicks the door down and charges in, Peacemaker first and Pregnant Belly second. And I just thought I was watching it, even live tweeting, and then it hit me all over again when I rewatched it. That's something that I definitely have not seen before. Last episode, I had a lot of theories that were based on, things I've read or things I've seen on other shows for, how this pregnancy was going to go down. But I wasn't ready for that moment, like that moment of her charging in and, saving the day like that with her huge stomach. Like that really rocked me.
Especially, I mean, she did that and she was ahead of the police officer.
Yeah.
And she was ahead of the, whatever you want to call dolls at this point. Government agent, that's not a government agent, whatever. Military trained, whatever we want to call dolls. But she busted in ahead of everybody because that's her job. And they, that was another, Wynonna's like, I'm pregnant, but that's not going to stop me from doing my job. I like that because that was another thing dolls got like hella, I mean, he just got hella obnoxiously protected. It's like, leave her alone, dolls. But,
let her
I like that scene too.
Gun.
Yeah, I really like that scene too, with her just busting on in there. I'm looking forward to see kind of what else they do with this. So it's just, but yeah, I like that scene too. It was a really good scene. What other little things did you want to?
Well, I definitely want to talk about the seals, because the Sandman, makes the point that the witches or the widows can't do anything yet because they don't have the third seal, or because there are 3 seals. And I think that's the plate that the Order is holding currently.
Ooh, that's a good theory. I like that theory.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was, I thought the whole triple seal thing was interesting. It's like, oh no, there's 3 of them. But I like that theory, especially since we now know it's not like, it's portable. It's a portable seal.
Yeah. Bobo moved to the second one. Exactly.
When we see it in the first one, we assume it's just kind of a stationary thing, but it's not. And so I like your theory that it's this plate, especially since, apparently we kind of had, like, the second seal was probably alluded to in the first season at some point. I mean, it was definitely why Bobo bought Shorties.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have an answer about that. Originally you're just thinking, oh, hey, he's buying Shorties because he, just wants a place to hang out and just wants to, stick it to Wynonna.
Yeah, that was another thing that, like, upon my second watch, I was like, oh, good job, Bobo. Because it seemed a little petty, kind of, even for him, like buying Shorties like that. And why would he want it other than to upset Wynonna? So I'm really glad that we found out all of this extra information about Shorties, and the ground being consecrated and the second seal hidden there. It made Bobo make more sense, and it actually gave you a little more respect for him. Like, I mean, I don't know what he was trying to do, hiding the second seal. And why? Why, if these evil chicks are after it, why would it scare Bobo enough to hide it from them? Like, what does this thing do if even Bobo, who was, trying to open up the gate and everything, was like, oh no, we're not messing with the seals. We're going to hide the second seal.
Yeah, and maybe it wasn't a fear thing. Maybe he was trying to hold on to it until he did something with them. Maybe he was, we don't know, since apparently it being on consecrated ground didn't mean that they couldn't go on it. Yeah. So it just stopped other demons from being on it. So yeah, there's a lot about that seal, but I like your theory that it's the plate. Like, we don't know what they're for. We don't know anything. Maybe it's a plate, or maybe the firehouse. It's at the firehouse, because we know that's consecrated ground as well. So yeah, because I totally missed the Bobo, like the not Mercedes and not Beth conversation in the beginning. I missed the Bobo mention. So when they found the seal and shorties, I was just like, oh, hey, that's why Bobo bought it. I didn't catch the Bobo mention until my rewatch. And I was like, oh, that makes more sense now. Like, he's come up already. So yeah, I like that. That's a good theory. I can't wait to see, because I want to know more about that plate.
I know, I do too. And it's a random enough thing that happened this season, all the interest in the plate to make me fairly certain that that's what it is. I mean, I could be wrong, and it certainly wouldn't be the first time, but I'm feeling pretty confident about this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's the thing about the show. It's like you can have so many theories, and you don't know what's right, you don't know what's wrong, but it's fun to speculate.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. It's fun to speculate, because they pack a lot into the show, and it's like you gotta rewatch a few times just to catch everything. But I like that we have the Bows buying shorties. I mean, and there were so many fun little things that they popped in. Like, did you catch the name of the diner?
The name
before you read my recap? The diner.
No.
Bo's Diner.
Oh.
So I'm assuming that was a reference to Papa Earp.
That's really cool.
Bo Smith, who wrote the comics, the Wynonna Earp comics, and so I'm assuming that's what that is. But yeah, the diner, Bo's Diner. So I enjoy little stuff like that. Do you have anything else big?
Oh, big. I don't.
Or little, big, little, in between.
Yeah. Okay. I like that we're still learning Peacemaker. I liked the way that it woke her up. One thing that I really appreciate is how much this gun has kind of become a character on the show. And we're still learning its subtleties and its temperament, which I think is really fun.
Oh yeah, it's a Peacemaker. I love Peacemaker, and it's just such a fun little thing. It's got a mind of its own. And I had this conversation with somebody this week, and I made the comment, it's like Peacemaker's kind of like Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
It's kind of like got a mind of its own, and it gives Wynonna her power and everything. I like Peacemaker, and I like the little alarm thing, although the fact that it glowed when it was up against her stomach, like, was it playing alarm clock, or did it sense something? And that goes back to the demon baby thing that I really hope it's not, because I really, 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 really don't want a demon baby. But I think
we come down on separate sides of that, because I'm all for demon baby. I'm fine with it.
I know. Well, if it happens, then I'll give you all of my thoughts on why you're wrong.
Okay.
But no, because I noticed the first time it buzzed, it definitely happened when it was like near her stomach.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't remember if that was also the same the second time it happened.
Well, the other disconcerting thing about that is the fact that the baby kept aging, and the Sandman was like, I guess it doesn't follow the rules, just like you don't. But like, when you take that into account, and if you're right about Peacemaker glowing like that, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I don't want it to be a demon baby. I don't want it to have been infected by the goo or anything. But that was definitely like, because Peacemaker it didn't just buzz, it lit up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, we know that Peacemaker has kind of a mind of its own, but it also, I think, a lot of times reacts to the wielder's intent and everything. Because, a lot of times it didn't glow the first time Wynonna held her gun on the Sandman. It didn't glow. It didn't glow until she actually legitimately threatened him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting too. Peacemaker's so cool. I think one of the comics will have a little bit more on Peacemaker, maybe. Or they do have a little bit more on Peacemaker. I'm not sure. But yeah, I can't wait to learn a little bit more about that gun. Because it's a cool little gun. I'm interested to see what exactly the deal was. It glowed. Oh, I have a very capsy note that just says Beaver Buzz is a real thing. So I felt like that was really hilarious, finding out that energy drink is a real thing. Like, I love Canada.
And good save on that one, because we would have been in trouble for not mentioning that at least once. So good job. 10 for you.
Yes. Let me make sure I do that. Oh, and I had a note about Nicole I didn't mention. Nicole keeps getting knocked out, and she's reminding me of Giles on Buffy with the number of, like, she keeps getting knocked out. And it made me laugh. I think it's been every episode
I think, yeah,
in the
no, I
past
think
several episodes.
at least once an episode she gets knocked out. We probably need to, like, I mean, it's good that she has her bulletproof vest, but now we need a helmet.
Yes. Maybe we need to rethink Nicole's headgear because she keeps getting bonked on the head or whatever.
Yeah, something with a little more cushion.
To be fair, at least this time she wasn't like tossed around. She was just she almost gently fell back. I mean, she hit her head a little bit on the clock, but I think she was.
There was a chick right there though, like waiting to embrace her. So that was, I mean, of all the times she's been knocked out, like that was probably the nicest.
And she even had time to take off her hat. Like, when she's falling, she just takes off her hat, and it's like, oh, okay, like, I guess it wasn't that bad. So, yeah, it was funny, because I kind of missed it the first time, and then when I rewatched, I was like, wait a minute. She had time to take off her hat. So that made me laugh.
She was not going to get caught with hat hair after that nap.
Well, no, I mean, she's got to keep her hair looking nice. Yeah, especially with that new baseball cap. Baseball caps are hell on hair. Let's see, I know there was another note I had. Oh, Jeremy, like, when they tell Jeremy that Wynona's pregnant, he's just like, was that a secret? I love that was similar to, it was really similar to Nicole's response to finding out that Wynonna and Doc slept together. You know, that, was that a surprise? And I kind of like that outsider, that person who's still kind of an outsider to the group, having a little bit of a beat on the group that other people didn't have. In the Whiskey and Donuts chat, somebody threw out the idea that, it was actually Varun who plays Jeremy. He said he thought that Jeremy like ran Wynona's pee or something, and that's how he knew.
That's so creepy.
Contamination. No. Like they had to test. Like they had to go through a whole bunch of tests and stuff.
Oh, okay.
It sounds less creepy when you explain it. No, like. Testing, like he had to go through they went through a whole bunch of testing with Wynonna and them every time they had to get like decontaminated or whatever. So that was Varun's theory. So I wanted to share that. I had a note for that because I thought that was such a fun moment, and it was such a nice little like throwback to Nicole finding out about dolls or Doc. Sorry, not dolls. So I really like that moment. Jeremy's such a fun character.
He is. I like that his obvious crush on Doc is just of no concern to anybody, especially not Doc. Doc doesn't care, and Jeremy is just free to, fanboy over him, and I think it's precious. I'm getting really attached to Jeremy.
Yeah, which is dangerous in the
show.
No, but and everybody should go back and rewatch a couple of the scenes with Jeremy, especially or like the one scene with Jeremy when he's like offering to get everybody snacks, and just watch everybody. It's like Waverly's got this little smile when she's watching him. Dolls, gets this kind of little smile, and then he focuses on Wynonna. But it's really funny. He's a great addition to the group. I really like him, and I'm really looking forward to Rosita kind of getting into it more too. Like, I want more of Rosita too.
Yeah, I would like that too. She's a solid background character, but I think she has more to offer.
Definitely, because I mean, she came in and she helped with Dolls' serum, and then she's like sleeping with Doc and tending bar. But that's all we know, really. I mean, we know she's hella smart. So I want to know more about Rosita. I'm kind of hoping it's not in a weird like thing with Wynonna. I get so tired, and we've got kind of a really weird, like, we don't have a love triangle. We have, like, a weird love pentagon or something. Like, it's just so many people involved in this thing. I really don't want to see, like, this, like, really nasty thing between them. I don't think it will go there, but I like Rosita, and I like what we've seen of her so far, and I want to know more. So I'm kind of hoping, kind of like how we're getting more. Go on.
Oh no, I really want Wynonna and Waverly to really sit down and talk about Willa's death. Like, have a real conversation.
Oh my God, yes.
About it. Yeah, I think we're honestly, like, I know that there's a lot happening right now, but I think we're overdue for it. And especially after this episode, when Wynonna tells Jeremy and Waverly that she thought she was seeing things when she saw the widows, she thought they were Willa. And I think especially after that being called out in this episode, like, we really need to confront what Wynonna is going through in the aftermath of that.
Yeah, it's definitely, we were talking about how important it was that Nicole and Waverly had that conversation about Waverly being possessed, and I know I mentioned how important it was that they were able to have that conversation, able to be open, and I think, honestly, Waverly and Wynonna aren't exactly there yet as far as talking about their feelings about family.
Yeah.
Because I think they need to sit down, and Waverly needs to have that conversation. Like, by the way, I think it'll come up whenever we get the answer to Waverly's parentage. I think we might have an Earp sisters just kind of sit down, but they need to sit down and talk about Willa, because it was a very traumatic thing for a lot of reasons. They got to talk about it. It's really going to take a push for them to do it, because Wynonna doesn't like to talk about her feelings, and they each had a different relationship with Willa. But I think the catalyst for that conversation will be whatever the answer to Waverly's parentage is.
I think you're probably right about that. And honestly, that gives me a little more perspective on why Waverly hasn't pressed the issue. To your point, it's probably because the family topic is a real hot button issue for her right now. So she's probably actively avoiding it until she knows more.
I mean, just look at season 1. They weren't really good at talking about their family anyway, because look at how they grew up very differently.
Yeah.
And were treated very differently. And I think there's a lot there to rehash, and they haven't had time. I mean, now with Wynonna being pregnant and everything, there's kind of a focus on that, and that was a really important thing to address. So I'm with you though. It's really important that they have that conversation about Willa, and I hope I'm right that it comes up soon, or I'm hoping right and that it comes up soon. I'm assuming it'll come up with the parentage.
Yeah.
Because it's a good lead-in. Sitting Wynonna down and being like, hey, so this is a thing. But I bet once we find out that answer, if it's not a wonky finale thing, which I don't think it is, I don't think they're going to let us sit on that a whole season and not give us that answer, because it was something that kind of originally was started last season. I'd like to hope that they won't do that. But I really think it'll take an episode or two before Waverly and Wynonna have that conversation about it, because Waverly's got to be scared if it's not the answer that she wants.
Yeah.
I mean, she hasn't been able to talk about it yet. I mean, she's talked about it with Nicole, but she hasn't been able to have that conversation. So it's a lot. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. They need to have that conversation.
They do.
That's going to be the next heartbreaking Earp sisters conversation.
Without a doubt.
Calling it now. All right, so any final thoughts or theories or observations or anything?
I think we got through my theories. I think that's about it for me. I love the Earp sisters, and this episode was riddled with them, ups, downs, plenty of humor. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did too, and I mean, we talked quite a bit, so hopefully y'all are stuck with us the whole time, because I know we definitely hit an hour with this podcast, and we'll probably get, hour and 10 or something. We hope you enjoyed listening. Let us know if you have any fun theories or thoughts about this episode, because it was a heavy one. If you liked the podcast, make sure you share it and comment and let us know. We love feedback, and if there's something that any comment, any feedback, we'd love to hear it. So please let us know. Don't forget to check out the newish Make Your Peace Twitter, which you can find at 4YE_MYP podcasts, where Lara will be live tweeting the episode every Friday, and we'll be posting the recaps and the podcasts. And you can find me on Twitter at cmeushaw, CMEUSHAW, where I'll be sharing my recaps there as well, and live tweeting. And Lara, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at RS Mayfair on Twitter and also on 4YE.
Excellent. So, like I said, please give us feedback if you've got it. We love to hear it. And we hope you enjoyed our lengthy discussion of Whiskey Lullaby. We will be with you next week.